In a surprising twist that challenges conventional narratives, a small but steadily growing number of Americans are making the profound decision of leaving behind the U.S., trading familiar landscapes for the unknown. And they're not heading to Canada or Mexico, traditional destinations for American expats. Instead, their compasses are pointing towards Russia. These individuals aren't primarily economic migrants seeking better job opportunities. Their motivations are deeply rooted in ideology, a quest for something more profound than financial gain. They are seeking what they perceive as a moral sanctuary, a place where their values are not just tolerated but embraced. For them, Russia represents a bastion of traditional values, a cultural anchor in a rapidly changing world. Since Russia's new, more accessible visa program was launched in 2024, designed to attract those sharing their worldview, approximately 700 Americans have successfully been granted residency, marking a tangible shift in migration patterns. These newcomers are joining an already established community of thousands of like-minded individuals who have previously made the same life-altering decision. The vast majority identify as socially conservative, deeply religious individuals, and they share a common sense of disillusionment with what they see as America's increasingly divisive culture wars, particularly concerning gender identity, race relations, and the role of faith in public life. For them, Russia offers the promise of stability, a sense of order that they feel is lacking in their homeland. They believe Russia upholds common-sense values, principles they feel are eroding in the West. Moreover, they see the Russian government as a champion of the ideals that they feel are increasingly under attack and marginalized within their own society back home. The Russian state is not merely a passive observer of this trend, it is actively encouraging this movement, recognizing its potential geopolitical advantages. They are strategically using media campaigns, showcasing Russia as a desirable destination for those seeking traditional social structures, and a streamlined visa process, making it easier than ever for like-minded individuals to relocate. This is all part of a broader strategy to position itself as a haven for global conservatives, attracting those who feel alienated by the prevailing social and political climate in the West. This phenomenon extends beyond individual personal stories. It represents a significant geopolitical phenomenon reflecting deeper shifts in global power dynamics. It signals shifting allegiances on a global scale, as individuals seek refuge in nations that align with their core beliefs. Ultimately, this migration underscores the enduring power of ideas in a polarized world, where cultural and ideological divides are reshaping international relations. The migration of Americans to Russia, while still a relatively small movement, serves as a potent symbol of the deep fractures and cultural anxieties that exist within U.S. society today. It also marks a new and intriguing chapter in Russia's ongoing efforts to expand its global influence and project itself as an alternative to Western values. At the heart of this migration is Russia's Shared Values Visa, launched in 2024 to attract citizens from unfriendly Western countries who align with Russia's traditionalist vision. Unlike typical immigration programs, this visa prioritizes ideological alignment over skills or wealth. Applicants bypass language exams and quotas, receiving a 3-year residency and a path to citizenship. Benefits include access to healthcare, family support programs, and even housing assistance. Marketed as the anti-woke visa, it targets Western conservatives disillusioned by progressive politics. Russia isn't just offering refuge, it's entering the West's culture wars, positioning itself as the global defender of contested values. This initiative is both a practical offer and a strategic move in the battle for ideological influence. The Americans moving to Russia represent a fascinating and complex phenomenon. It begs the question, who are these individuals making such a drastic change? What compels them to leave behind their lives in the United States for a country with a vastly different culture and political system? They are united by a sense of alienation from modern America, a feeling of disconnect from the prevailing social and political currents. This alienation often stems from a perceived shift away from the values and principles they hold dear. Many are conservative Christians, seeking a society where traditional religious beliefs are more widely embraced and upheld. They are also parents worried about their children's education, concerned about the direction of curricula and the values being taught in schools. Furthermore, they are citizens disillusioned with political institutions, feeling that their voices are not being heard and that the government no longer represents their interests. They're fleeing what they see as moral decay, a decline in ethical standards, and a shift away from traditional family structures. They are weary of the constant culture wars, the seemingly endless battles over social issues that divide the nation, and they express concern over a loss of traditional values, a perceived erosion of the principles that once defined American society. Protecting their children from liberal ideologies is a key motivation, a desire to shield them from what they view as harmful or inappropriate influences. This is coupled with the appeal of Russia's emphasis on family values and its restrictive laws on LGBTQ+ expression, which they see as aligning with their own beliefs. Economic pressures, like high housing costs and inflation, also play a role, adding to the sense of instability and financial strain. For some, Russia offers a lower cost of living and a simpler lifestyle, a chance to escape the rat race and build a more sustainable future. Ultimately, these migrants seek certainty and stability, a sense of security and predictability in a rapidly changing world. They are drawn to Russia's clear moral lines and strong national identity, finding comfort in a society that seems to offer a more defined sense of right and wrong. For them, the trade-off, sacrificing some freedoms for perceived stability and alignment with their values, is a calculated risk worth taking. Their journey is less about embracing Russia wholeheartedly, or necessarily agreeing with its political system, and more about rejecting what they perceive America has become, a decisive step away from a society they no longer recognize or feel at home in. Leo and Chantel Hare from Texas became early symbols of this movement. Troubled by what they saw as a hostile environment for their Christian faith and family values, they sought a Noah's Ark to protect their children. Drawn by Russia's stance against LGBTQ+ rights and its embrace of Christianity, they sold everything and moved. Russian media quickly amplified their story, framing them as pioneers fleeing Western decline. The Hares embraced their new role, encouraging others to follow. But reality proved challenging. Financial difficulties and cultural barriers soon surfaced, revealing the gap between ideological hope and daily life. Their journey highlights both the power of belief and the harsh realities of starting over in a foreign land. Joseph Rose, a conservative YouTuber from Florida, has become a leading voice promoting Russia as a haven for traditional values. He paints Moscow as reminiscent of 1950s America, strong families, clear roles, and social order. Disillusioned by U.S. politics and the rise of feminism, Rose claims Russia offers the stability and values he misses. His videos, blending practical advice with ideological messaging, serve as recruitment tools for like-minded Westerners. However, critics note his portrayal is selective, ignoring Russia's authoritarianism and social problems. Rose's narrative is compelling for his audience, but it glosses over the complexities and trade-offs of life in Russia. His story shows how the search for utopia can lead to a romanticized, incomplete picture. Daniel Martindale, a missionary hailing from the heartland of Indiana, a place known for its strong community values, took an extraordinary and irreversible step, renouncing his U.S. citizenship. This wasn't a casual decision, but a deliberate act with profound implications. He went even further, seeking asylum in Russia, a nation often perceived as America's ideological opposite. Driven by deep-seated religious convictions, he came to view America as morally corrupt, a society adrift from its foundational principles. He saw Russia, on the other hand, as a staunch defender of traditional Christian values, a beacon of hope in a world he perceived as increasingly lost. This perspective was especially heightened amid the ongoing Ukraine conflict, which he interpreted through a specific moral lens. Martindale's actions, which included openly supporting Russia and its policies, particularly in the context of occupied Ukraine, placed him in a precarious position. These actions inevitably put him at odds with U.S. authorities, who began to scrutinize his activities. Facing potential prosecution and fearing the consequences of his choices, he made the dramatic decision to flee, seeking refuge in Moscow, a city steeped in history and political significance. Russian officials, quick to capitalize on the situation, celebrated his defection as a significant propaganda victory, showcasing it on state media. His case was actively championed by prominent figures like Maria Butina, known for her involvement in Russian political circles. This entire situation inverts the traditional Cold War narrative, challenging long-held assumptions. It presents Russia, rather unexpectedly, as the new beacon of liberty, at least in the eyes of some. Martindale's journey poignantly highlights just how deep and unyielding ideological divides can become within a society. These divisions can ultimately lead to a complete and irreversible break with one's homeland, a severing of ties that once seemed unbreakable. His story raises profound questions about the very nature of patriotism, the meaning of citizenship, and the far-reaching consequences of political polarization within a nation. For some individuals, the sense of alienation and disillusionment can become so overwhelming that finding a new flag to pledge allegiance to, a new national identity to embrace, becomes the only conceivable solution, the final and decisive act in a personal transformation. For many American migrants, the dream of a traditionalist utopia in Russia quickly meets harsh reality. Russian bureaucracy is notoriously complex, making residency and work permits a challenge. Financial struggles are common. Savings can vanish due to unexpected costs or scams, and U.S. qualifications often aren't recognized. The language barrier and lower wages add to the difficulty, while sanctions can freeze U.S. bank accounts. Cultural adjustment is tough, blunt communication, societal pessimism, and subtle xenophobia can leave newcomers feeling isolated. Living under authoritarian rule means limited free speech and harsh crackdowns on dissent. The social order some crave comes at the cost of personal liberty. For some, this trade-off is acceptable. For others, it leads to a new kind of disillusionment. This migration isn't organic. It's fueled by a sophisticated Kremlin soft power campaign. Russian media and online influencers target disaffected Westerners, portraying Russia as a stable, traditionalist haven. Western YouTubers and bloggers, often migrants themselves, amplify this message, showcasing the positives and omitting the negatives. Figures like Maria Butina help migrants navigate bureaucracy and feature their stories in the media, giving the movement official backing. The goal isn't mass migration, but symbolic victories. Each American family becomes living propaganda for Russia's worldview. This strategy validates Russia's political system, undermines Western authority, and sows division in the West. The Kremlin is building a global network of ideological allies, using migration as a tool of influence. Every new arrival is a testament to the power of narrative in the battle for hearts and minds. Though small in number, Americans moving to Russia carry immense symbolic weight. Their departure reflects deep fractures in Western societies, where culture wars now outweigh the foundational principles of democracy for some. This migration signals a crisis of faith in liberal democracy and a loss of trust in institutions. For Russia, it's a geopolitical win, rebranding itself as a moral sanctuary and challenging the West in the realm of ideas. Ultimately, this story is less about Russia and more about Western anxieties and divisions. It forces us to confront whether polarization is pushing citizens away and eroding our shared sense of purpose. The search for a new home abroad is a warning sign. The greatest threat to democracy may come from within.